Stay tuned for another episode of the Coming Soon podcast with Spider.
Hello, everybody. Spider here once again, Coming Soon podcast, San Antonio, Texas, with my guest also in San Antonio, man, Ryan Edwards. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, my man. Always good to be here.
No, and man, I appreciate you. I know somebody referred you out here, so I definitely appreciate them doing that. And right off the bat, bro, as far as San Antonio, are you local or did you move out here?
Hey, born and raised. I was born. Went to Lee High School. I was been raised in the Blanco area, so like nice. San Antonio. This is my home.
Sweet, brother, sweet. I always ask just because I know we got a lot of people that moved out here, man. So I'm always curious to see where everybody's coming from. But yeah, man. But of course, I mean, dude, I've got questions, and one of them is, being an author. Tell us a little bit about how that started, as far as you getting into that.
Well, of course. Well, with me, like pretty much getting into like cryptozoology and being an author and all that. I always like to say like I was like every little kid, you know, like as a kid you love dinosaurs, monsters, mysteries, stuff like that. Oh, yeah. And that made me fall in love with cryptozoology. Soon enough, I was like, I think it was History Channel. I was watching a show called Monster Quest back in the day.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Yeah. And I heard about cryptozoology, and I was like, okay, this is interesting to me. And ever since then, I've been into it. Like, it was back in 2021 when I published my first book, Cryptids of the World. That one, pretty much what allocated that was COVID, pretty much.
Right.
COVID, at that time, I was actually going to high school. I graduated class of 2020. So I had time, like, okay, let me pretty much write down all the knowledge I have. Pretty much my first book was supposed to be like pretty much a personal journal of mine. Like, okay, I have all this knowledge on cryptids. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to forget it. So I wrote it all down in this book and then went from there. So I was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff in here I've never seen people bring up. Why not try to publish this and get out to the public?
And of course, I mean, when it came to you, I mean, obviously you were influenced. I mean, you picked it up through TV, but I mean, was somebody in the household, I guess, were they doing the same thing like you were, or is this just, are you the first in the family?
The first in the family. Like, pretty much the really people that got me like into this were other researchers. Like, a hero of mine is King Gerhard, Lyle Blackburn, Rowan Coleman. A lot of these big-time authors, these are people like, okay, you know, as a little kid, I want to be like that guy. Pretty much that was me. And it's funny now because, like, for instance, my second book, The Forward's written by King Gerhard. Yeah. My third book's written by Rowan Coleman. I'm working with my heroes now. So it's a surreal feeling.
No, man, I can only imagine because, yeah, I mean, especially since you grew up and you're looking up to them, and I'm sure they still influence you and you're still looking up to what they've done and are doing. So that's actually pretty cool, man. Let me ask you this, because, of course, I mean, someday somebody's going to be looking up and thinking and doing the same thing with you. So, I mean, are you thinking, you know what, you're going to return that favor and eventually help out somebody else?
Of course. Like, for instance, a lot of times I've had local researchers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of connections with, like, conferences. I know people, networking and all that. So a lot of these new people that get in here, I'm like, oh, no, yeah. I know this person. I know this person. You might want to talk to this podcast. Like, I love bringing in new people into this and getting them the connections that you need in here. Like, that's why I love reaching out to podcasts like yours. I'm like, okay, how can I get this network? Like, especially recently here in San Antonio, like, I've been reaching out to older, like, different paranormal groups and podcasts here in San Antonio, trying to, like, okay, how can we connect to each other and get an understanding of everyone? Like, okay, we have curious trends, you have this. Like, for instance, the people that got me here was the Haunted Doll Museum on Hildebrand. I didn't even know that existed until last weekend. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now that I know you exist, I would love to promote you and get you out there. And, like, I might not be able to do much, but, like, someone putting a name out there is very helpful.
Yeah. No, but, you know, that's the way it works, though, man, because even – like I started doing this Coming Soon podcast like 2 years ago. Before this, I'm still in combat sports, so I still promote that. But I mean, for 15 plus years, I've been promoting and you know, doing the whole media thing for MMA, for boxing, kickboxing, and it's just, I mean, that's my go-to. But I mean, you know, everything when it comes to horror, man, I've been a horror fan since the '80s, so it just kind of made sense, you know, doing this. But yeah, man. I mean, initially when I first started this, I mean, I was the new guy when it came to, you know, going to conventions. So of course, I kind of had to prove myself. You know, once they started seeing I wasn't gonna stop coming, man, they kind of okay, yeah, this guy's still here, you know. But
Yeah.
connections, bro, because that's one of the things you mentioned. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in San Antonio. I'm still personally finding out about it, and I'm like, damn, I never knew that store was there. Or I never knew it's gonna take that one person to share it to bring that to somebody's attention, you know. So the fact that you're doing that, I mean, yeah, it's just that's the way it works, you know. I mean, they brought you to me. I mean, that haunted dollhouse, of course, you know, it's been there for a minute. You know, they've been doing their thing, and you know, no matter how big you think you are, man, I mean, there's still people out there that don't know who you are, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, of course, when it comes to networking, you know, it's a lot easier now. Let me backtrack a little bit because you said you graduated what year?
Class of 2020.
Man, so how old are you, bro?
23.
Nice, man. You're still young, and man. Okay, sweet, man. I
Yeah.
think your style, though, man. Where does that come from, bro?
Just I guess I've just kind of collected over the years. Whenever I go to conferences, people like King Gerhardt and Lyle, they always make jokes like, "Why does every one of us have a black hat?" We both know. I've always noticed that whenever I go to conferences, every Bigfoot hunter is wearing a hat, and I'm like, I guess at the end of the day, all of us want to be Indiana Jones. I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna
Like,
say, man. All you need is that leather whip. You know, you'll be good.
so it's like I guess that it's kind of like the monster hunter look. So I've always had my own personal very unique style. So it's like I kind of use that as kind of like a marketing technique. Like okay, it kind of gets you away from everyone else.
No, I agree, man. I mean, look at me, bro. I'm the guy. I'm always rocking flannel shirts, bro. And I got to thank Divided Flannel Company because they actually jumped on board and sponsoring me now, man. So free gear is always good gear, man. But dude, this is soft. But yeah, you know, when I go out and about, man, I mean, I've been wearing flannel since the '90s, bro. So now for me, it's just my thing, you know. But pretty cool, man. I dig it though, man. It's a cool hat, bro. And it keeps, you know, with the sun, bro, it keeps that sun off your face, so that works.
Yeah, it helps especially when you're in the woods because spider webs and all that stuff. It doesn't get in your hair. You can block stuff. Ultimately, it's not just fashion; it's also useful.
No, yes, we were shooting for a film, Lions Act production, and I gotta throw them in there. But we were out there at a local park, and we're out there in the middle of the night, you know, getting some filming, and bro, like spiders falling from the trees, man. That was that was the first, you know. But I wish I would have worn a hat like that because that would have helped. But yeah, man, it was one of those things like let's get our reels in and get out of here, man. But yeah, man. But of course, let me ask you this. I mean, of course, writing, but music, man. I'm curious. What kind of music do you listen to, bro?
Me, I have a very unique style, I guess, very eclectic. I was raised by my grandparents, so I was raised with 50s and 60s music.
Oh, nice.
Favorite artist to this day is always going to be Elvis Presley. But recent year, I've gone into the heavy metal, alternative stuff like that. I can listen to everything from Johnny Cash to Slipknot. That's what I like to say.
Oh, okay.
I like a little bit of everything.
No, that's cool, man. I can definitely appreciate that, man. Let me say this. In high school, you know, this was I'll put my age up there. Of course, everybody knows I turned 50 this year, man. But in high school, for me, it was how can I say it, man? My style was a little throwback. I used to wear these wool coats with a little, you know, little hat, and you know, all the preppies out there used to call me Sherlock Holmes, man. And I took it, man. I was like, shoot, I'm cool with that, you know. But it was definitely my own style, man, and you know, that was my identity then, man. But yeah, you know, I mean, when it comes to music, I mean, the same thing. You know, I always tell people I grew up with older siblings that were 8, 10 years older than me. So, you know, growing up in the '80s, it was it was disco for my older sister. My other older sister was listening to what was hot then, you know, with the boy bands and from in Spanish and English. So, you know, I go from Motown to hard rock, or hardcore, in a second, you know. So it's a little bit of the same, dude. I listen to whatever's good, man.
Yeah.
And tell me, man. I mean, when it comes to you getting into the cryptozoologist, dude, what is that? Break that down for me because I looked it up and I still got questions.
Yeah, pretty much cryptozoology. break it down into the origins of it. Crypto means anything that's hidden. Called
Right.
zoology, zoo, animal, science. Study of hidden animals. It was coined back by a man named Bernard Hoovermans. Bernard Hoovermans is pretty much the father of cryptozoology.
Nice.
He wrote about this way back in the 40s and 50s. His first book, On the Track of Unknown Animals, talked a lot about, like, okay, people are seeing stuff that shouldn't exist. Back then, it talked a lot about, like, the Yeti, sea serpent, stuff like that, even real life dragons. And into the modern day, it's still our pretty much how I see it. It's a goal of a cryptozoologist to discover these unknown species.
Yeah.
Bigfoot, Dogman, Mothman, Loch Ness Monster, all these different types of creatures seen around the world. And what I try to do is try to separate the monster hunting to the science. Because cryptozoology is truly a science. But a lot of people have watched shows like, no offense to the guys on it, Mountain Monsters, and Finding Bigfoot, stuff like that, that bring in the more kind of like fantastical side of it.
Right.
Of course, look how I'm dressed. I kind of give into that side a little bit, but also this is a science. Like on my regular 9 to 5 job, I'm an educator, so I kind of bring in that perspective of like education, teaching, and getting away from the fantastical side of cryptozoology and closer to like the real deal, boots on the ground science.
Okay. So yeah, so that makes sense. I mean, you bring the facts into these creatures rather than just like, hey, I saw a footprint and that's it. You keep going.
Yeah.
Man, well, let me ask you because this is one of the. I mean, you have quite a few images on your page, but tell me a little bit about this, man, because I don't think you can talk about it because I think you said you were gonna start talking about this, but I mean, obviously, this is a creature other than Bigfoot.
Yes. Actually, what you see in that picture is not actually a Sasquatch. That's a piece of art done by a good friend, Jason McLean.
Right.
And that identifies what we call the devil monkey.
Okay.
Devil monkeys are another type of cryptid seen here in North America, especially in Texas. People imagine baboons, but the size of people. That's what people are describing seeing in our natural world.
Okay.
Parts of like Texarkana, that area, Lake Texoma, right on the border of Texas and Oklahoma. There's stories of campers going out there and they see what they call wolf monkeys sometimes because they look like very canine in the mouth and very canine in the head, but they walk around in the trees and stuff like that.
Damn. Okay.
And that's what my third book, the newest one, is all about. It's about the other stuff seen in North America. Both Bigfoot, in my opinion, is out there. The research shows it.
Yeah.
But there's other types of creatures seen out there. For instance, in the American South, people report seeing chimpanzee-like creatures, like not like a baby Bigfoot, but like a legitimate, like a chimpanzee.
Right.
These are called North American apes. The devil monkey, another creature is called a guggery. So imagine a Bigfoot, but with a head like a baboon. The
Damn.
very like the muzzle, very vicious, very like guggery actually means face eater in Algonquin.
Okay.
So yeah, that kind of shows you what these creatures were known for.
Yeah.
There's stories of them digging pits and trapping Native Americans inside of them, them raiding Native Indian tribes and kidnapping women and feasting upon children.
Wow. Okay. No, you see, and that's one of the. I was going to ask you about this because I mean, this is a story that I mean, growing up here in San Antonio, especially, man, my grandparents will talk about the Thunderbird.
Yep.
What's your take on that?
I believe, of course, I have no sightings myself.
Right.
I had a possible sighting way back in a couple years back, but it could have been a turkey buzzard. It's hard to gauge size. It's something in the sky. But back in the 70s and 80s, we had a bunch of Thunderbird sightings here.
Yeah.
What we call a flap, like a bunch of sightings at once, and then they go away.
Right.
For instance, over by Huebner and Fulton, there were sightings. Over on Babcock, over by Medical Center, there were sightings of a Thunderbird-like creature. And a Thunderbird is pretty much described as a large bird, maybe 20-foot wingspan, very large creature. And one of the most famous sightings took place here in San Antonio with 3 school teachers.
Yeah.
They were driving in Southside San Antonio over by Zarzamora, and they were driving to the school early in the morning, and they looked in this field, and they see this creature flying in the field. They couldn't identify it, but it was giant. They said like 20-foot wingspan, and they got back to the school. They went to the library, started looking in all the books at like different birds, and they couldn't find it.
Yeah.
They found a picture of what they saw in a dinosaur book. They said they saw like a pteranodon, like one of the creatures from like Jurassic Park, and that's a prehistoric reptile that went extinct 66 million years ago. So, what did these women see? Did they see that, or was it a misidentification? Because there have been other sightings of pterosaurs here in Texas, which is kind of the big thing with thunderbirds. Are they a giant bird, or are they some type of living dinosaur? That's kind of the thing we have here. Me personally, I believe they're a giant bird, but there have been sightings of some type of like leathered wing, scaly, crested creature that's not a bird. That's something else.
Right. Yeah, so no feathers, in other words.
Yeah.
You see, and I have a buddy out there in South Texas that was actually doing a documentary film, and I gotta reach out to him because I know he had gotten like people that had like first on hand. You know, I mean, he was a kid himself when the sighting was going on, and I mean, all he recalled was just the flaps. He was like, man, they were just loud. I mean, he couldn't describe him other than it had to have been a large bird, but he didn't get an actual sighting of it. But yeah, you know, it makes you wonder, man, because even for example, like when it comes to the ocean, you know, we still don't know. I mean, there's still creatures being found like every year because they're so deep in the ocean, and we're not there. So I mean, when it comes to parts of the world that aren't inhabited by humans, I mean, you know, imagine just what's out there, man. I mean, it's just free range. They're not being hunted. They're not being scared off. You know, but who knows? We'll see.
No, that's the thing that like I tell people all the time. We think about that about the ocean, but also how many times do people go into deep woods or walk into the high mountains? There's still a lot of places on this world where people have never stepped on.
Yeah.
Neither white or indigenous. So there are still mysteries out there. Like a lot of people assume that's one thing with cryptozoology is asking questions. A lot of people assume, oh, we know everything that's out there. We know what's going on, so they don't ask the questions.
Right.
Cryptozoology brings up we don't know everything. What? So we have to ask those questions. Is Bigfoot real? Is Mothman real? Stuff like that in order to get those answers.
No, I mean, yeah, man, I agree because even I mean, I'm all for as far as when it comes to like folklore here in San Antonio. And I mean, of course, you know, stories that were told to me when I was a kid, you know, by my aunts and uncles, and you know, the lechuza. I mean, you got like, you know, creatures, and I think there was one that I read that a sighting or something that happened in Converse as far as the Wolfman. It was like a sighting back in the 40s or 50s.
The Converse werewolf.
Yeah, so. I mean, but yeah, man. I mean, you know, it's just. I mean, there's so much out there. I mean, I wouldn't say I don't believe that. You know, I mean, I'd have to. You know, if I were to see it, then of course I'd be like, yeah, it does exist. You know, but there are other things that I've seen and heard that I can't describe. You know, so it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, you know what? There's something out there. You know, it's just whether we'll ever see it, especially here. I mean, it's a city, man. So of course, creatures out here they're gonna get scared off and not come through. Populated areas, but when it comes to like going towards Bandera out there in the mountains, man, who knows?
Yeah, like there have been like that's one thing that's funny with San Antonio. We have a long history of like cryptid sightings and stuff like that. Like we brought up the Converse werewolf that goes back to the 1800s, like post Civil War. We've had south of here in Elmendorf in Cuero, Texas, the Chupacabra sightings.
Yeah.
We've had. I've actually personally have gotten reports of lechuza here in San Antonio. Yeah. And there's a good friend of mine, Rod Nichols, Bear County Bigfoot. He has gotten possible Bigfoot evidence in places like Walker Ranch Park, parts of like the Salado Creek area. Evidence of like a Sasquatch-like creature living out there. So just because it's a big city doesn't necessarily mean it's going to creatures like Bigfoot and stuff like that are going to avoid it.
Right.
I always bring this up. Southern California right now, people are encroaching into wilderness areas, and there's been sightings of cougars, black bears, stuff like that, mauling pets, getting in the trash. If these known species are doing that, why would an unknown species Because how I see it, these cryptids, all they are is just another animal. It's just that they haven't been discovered yet, either because of their high intelligence or just they're very crafty or whatever.
Right.
Like, if a bear would do it, why wouldn't a Bigfoot? That's what I like to bring up. It's like, why separate it? Because people like to make these cryptids seem like monsters and something truly magnificent, while truly all they are is just another living species on our natural world.
Oh yeah, because even now I think especially here in Texas, like you said, man. I mean, when it comes to like mountain lions and cougar, I mean, a lot of people buying exotic animals and then letting them go or whatever the case may be. But the fact that my thing, especially here in San Antonio, I'm a contract delivery driver for the most part. I do that on the side, but every time I deliver furniture to these houses that are like pop-up houses that they just built in areas that have been woods for forever, right? And they complain about like snakes and spiders. Oh man, we get all these creatures, and I'm thinking, well, man, you just put a house on their, over their home. I mean,
it's really, you should expect it, right?
Yeah, so it's just one of those things. But it's just like I said. I mean, of course, these creatures eventually they're gonna have to go find a home somewhere else, But I mean, they're out there. It's just if you go out there and shake the trees a little bit, who knows what you're gonna find.
Yeah. Like, it's funny, like, when we brought up, like, you just brought up mountain lions.
Yeah.
Technically, a part of cryptozoology is creatures that have not been found in the natural range.
Right.
Technically, any, like, cougar or mountain lion seen in Texas is technically a cryptid, because cougars are supposed to be found not east of the Mississippi and barely this far west, this far east. So, when people are seeing mountain lions taking dogs down in northern San Antonio, people don't think, oh, well, it's just a mountain lion. Well, technically, that's kind of a cryptid right there. The eastern cougar is a thing. Like, along the eastern seaboard, people see cougars all the time.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be extinct over there. But how are we still seeing them? That tells me they're probably still there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's I used to work for this company like way out in south side of San Antonio, like nothing but trees south side, So when we worked out there, one day, it was a welder apprentice, and the owner was like, "Hey, we're slowing down, but you know what? I'll keep you busy." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." So he had a riding lawnmower, and he says, "Man, just go ahead and start hitting the property, just take your time." And I'm like, "Cool." So I'm out there, cutting the grass, and I'm looking, and man, there was a big old freaking python looking snake, bro, like balled up. And so the first thing I did was freak out and jump off and take off, like running away, But I looked, it was dead. Like, I mean, I went out there, I threw a rock at it, it didn't move. And I was like, man, so I go over there and told the owner, and I'm like, hey, man, there's this big old snake. And he's like, oh, okay, well, let's go out there. So he goes out there with a stick, and he's poking it, and he's like, man, it's dead. So he said, you know what? Tie a rope over the head, and we'll pull it with a riding lawnmower. And man, I kid you not, when this thing must have been like 20 feet long, bro. Like, it was long. Like, I pulled it and they kept coming, and I'm thinking, okay, like, and then you could, right when we pulled it out, stretched it out, you could tell where somebody hit it with a truck or somebody ran over it. And I'm thinking, okay, because across the street from him, it was nothing but woods, and there was a creek, and there was water, and the same thing, it goes back to like, if you leave them alone, they're gonna keep growing, and who knows how old this thing was, but that was a big freaking snake, man. Like, after that, I was a little bit more careful, a little bit more cautious, when I was after working. But yeah, man, it's just, that's why I'm like, when people say they've seen what's it, crocodiles like out there in the creeks, and I believe it, man, because it's like, dude, I mean, there's nothing for they don't have any predators, other than people,
No, like. Funny little story, because, like, for instance, a place that I've gone and investigated in, a place called Brown Springs, Oklahoma. Yeah. Good friends of mine, Tex Weston, he's a good researcher out there in northern Texas, and we go into a place called Brown Springs. Well known for Bigfoot sightings, it's had a couple of dogman sightings, stuff like that. And, like, 10 miles away from there was a ranch that was owned by Tiger King. That guy used to own a property out there, but it closed down. And supposedly they lost like 10 or 12 tigers and big cats.
Oh,
they never found them afterwards. They never found them. So it's like, okay, those things are still out there.
Yeah.
That only happened like a couple of years ago. And one day, my friend Tex Weston, he was out there walking around at night, and he what he heard was sound like a large cat going beside him. And
Damn.
I'm like, okay, so that's a tiger. Those things are huge. And there's like maybe one or two sightings out there. And there's like 10 of them. So that tells you something like that can stay hidden. And now when I go out there, I make sure I bring a sight on because I'm like, okay, I got to worry about Bigfoot, got to worry about Dogman. Now there's a tiger out here. Why? Why?
No, you see, and another thing too, because obviously, I mean, they got male and female, man. I'm sure they're having they keep breeding, man. So who knows how many are out there now, you know?
Yeah, like that's happened in Britain back in the '60s. They made a law that was illegal to own like big cats in the UK. Before that, it was very like popular. Like if you walk down downtown London in the '60s, you probably would have seen someone walking a lion or a tiger like a pet.
Damn.
But they made it illegal, so they released a lot of the wild animals into the moors, the wilderness areas. And since then, we've had the Beast of Exmoor, the Beast of Bodmin. People report seeing large, big cats as a breeding population in the United Kingdom. Of course, the government doesn't bring it up because they believe it's going to bring fear and people will be scared to go out in the wilderness and then they'll lose money. But there is evidence for a breeding population of wild cats being in the United Kingdom to this day. And they're not indigenous species. They were brought there and released as like by humans. Like what you brought up, the Burmese python. Look in Florida. There's hundreds of thousands of Burmese pythons in Florida because a bunch of people released them.
Man, you see, and it makes you wonder because even I mean, I'm a fan of horror when it comes to '80s movies, man, and like all these movies with the alligator, in the sewers. You got all these creatures, and I'm thinking, you know what, man? I mean, I think it was in New York when that's happened. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, sewers, water out there. Nobody's, like I said, they don't have any predators, so they just keep growing. But yeah, man, I mean, there's a lot that I've seen, and it's opened doors as far as me accepting other. Like I'm like, okay, you know what? There's got to be creatures out there. I mean, that we haven't seen yet. So I mean, obviously, but when somebody says a sighting, I mean, it's got its pros and cons. I mean, when there's somebody of education, like somebody that's educated like yourself, and they're talking about this, I'm gonna listen. But if it's just somebody that I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm kind of like, okay, skeptical as far as what they saw or what happened, But
yeah,
I mean, I believe it. Like I said, I mean, I mean, when it comes to like paranormal, like I mean, I've lived in homes where there was things I couldn't explain. We moved out of a home because of ghost sightings, man. I'll put it like that, and it's just being there and nobody's upstairs, and you hear voices, and you look up the stairway, the glass, and you see somebody walking by, and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that's not normal, man.
Yeah, like that's like the one thing with cryptozoology is that cryptozoology is a part of like 14 research, like Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, and all that. Like when I was younger, I researched like ghosts and UFOs and all that, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to. I specialized my field into cryptozoology because how I saw it. Okay, do I want to deal with something that I can shoot with a gun, or something I have to like have a cross and holy water with? I'd rather deal with a thing I can shoot with a gun, like ghosts and stuff like that. I know exists. I've had my own experiences in the past, and I'm like, I'm interested in that field, but just it's not really my like wheelhouse. I might not know the most about it, but I do know a little bit about enough to like. That's why I talk to a lot of paranormal researchers and stuff like that here. Like a lot of my cryptozoology friends I know have researched ghosts and UFOs, alien abduction, and stuff like that.
Damn. But let me ask you, I mean, because of course, I mean, you're still young, man. So I mean, when it comes to pursuing an education or just getting more in depth, I mean, this through school, or are you like working with other people?
I'm currently going to college. Like I'm working on a degree, and I want to become a history teacher. But like when it comes to like the cryptozoology part, it's a lot of like networking, talking to people that have been in the field a lot longer than me, and also talking to the young people. Because a big point I like to bring up is that like a lot of the people bring up that I'm like the next generation of cryptid hunters, and I'm like, okay, don't put that on my shoulder, but thank you, I guess. Now I have more stress on me, but I like to bring in like a lot of new people, like a lot of younger people. Like, okay, I've noticed with this field, people my age or younger really aren't interested in Bigfoot anymore.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people into it as much. So I want to help bring in these new researchers and these new faces, especially younger people.
Right.
And like, okay, we've been looking for Sasquatch and these cryptids for 50, 60 years.
Yeah.
That might tell you the people before us might have been doing something wrong. What can we learn from them and their mistakes and maybe be the generation that does discover Sasquatch or the Dogman or Chupacabras or whatever you're looking for? So that's what I try to do is communicate with the younger people and try to bring in that newer, fresher perspective into the field.
Man, let me ask you this, because when it comes to the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, I mean, of course, you have companies like Slim Jim using them as mascots, and you've got
Yeah.
other companies. So, do you think that's the kind of the reason why a lot of the younger generation, because they keep seeing them everywhere? I mean, costume, of course, but they're not so much like, okay, yeah, it's got to be Bigfoot out there. I mean, like, it's been accepted.
I think what it is it's a little bit of like acceptance, and also like when you look at a lot of the Bigfoot research nowadays, a lot of it's like social, like within like Snap to a Slim Jim, that type of stuff. It's like very much like making fun of the field. Of like, oh, you go hunt Bigfoot, oh, you gotta be the crazy guy that lives down the street or something. And I think a lot of people bring in that perspective of like, if I go in and I saw, like for instance, myself, I work at a school. If I say, here, oh, I have Bigfoot on my weekends, that's a good way to lose a job, or that's a good way to have people talk about you behind your back.
Right.
It's a lot of ridicule when it comes to this field. Even like when it comes to like even beyond Bigfoot, like Sasquatch is like one of the most realistic cryptids out there. But then you bring up like something like Dogman. People will pretty much report seeing we're like werewolves. If you imagine a werewolf in Van Helsing, people will report seeing that in the field.
Bro.
If you bring that up, people really start looking at you weird. Like, okay, what were you taking that night? Or did you not take your meds? People start looking at you like that.
Right.
And that's one thing I try to bring is like get away from that ridicule and like, no, there is science in this field. There is legitimate data and research, not just a bunch of people going out there just toting guns looking for monsters.
Right.
And take away the ridicule. Because a lot of people, like, I've talked to educated people in the past. They said, I've seen a Bigfoot or I've seen this, but I'm not going to tell anyone because the second I do, that's a good way for me to lose my scholarship. That's a good way for me to lose my college grants.
Yeah, credibility, especially like, I've never thought about it like that. But yeah, man, especially if it's people of high intelligence and say they're professors or say they're, for them to say, oh, and by the way, I saw Bigfoot over the weekend. I mean, yeah, people are going to look at him differently, or just like you said, but, well, I mean, I will say this on that because it's like the whole ghost hunter thing. Like because of stuff that I've seen and I've heard, and when I'm out, like I said, we've lived in houses. I mean, I believe there's stuff out there. But my thing with a lot of, not a lot, but I mean, ghost hunting, man, is the fact that a lot of them are made for TV, especially when they're on TV, right? So they're like, oh,
Yes.
they get startled and they run and they scream.
What was that?
Yeah, like I'm thinking, okay, you know what? Like if I'm in that field and I'm like, okay, I'm there to prove that there's something, and say I do find something, like I don't think my reaction should be to yell and run.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm gonna be startled, but I'm gonna be like, okay, this is what I'm here for, right? So let me see what I can gather, but yeah, it's just made for TV, and like you said, it kind of commercializes everything because now it's like, oh yeah, it's a ghost hunting like on TV or on the cable or whatever, stream that's on. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to the people that are really doing it, I think it's the ones that aren't really out there putting stuff out unless it's educated and it's something like actual footage, or you know what I mean, instead of them running around the house yelling like for 30 minutes and stuff.
Yeah, like it's a good someone I've worked with before is a guy named Cliff Bergman. He was one of the hosts on Finding Bigfoot, and I brought up to him like, hey, like, what do you think about people doing this with TV shows? He was like, I'll be honest, the worst decision I ever made was going on TV because the producers control what you say. The producers control what you research.
Oh yeah,
you're no longer your own person. And I'm like, oh wow, I never thought about that because a lot of these like made for TV Bigfoot shows and paranormal shows, it is like what you said, made for TV. It's made to entertain. It's made to get views.
Yeah.
And if a lot of times when you go out there and go Bigfoot hunting, you don't get anything. You're not going to get any type of wood knocks or sightings. So you can't make TV on that unless you have something happen every time.
Yeah.
And then it's no longer realistic. It's no longer what's true. That's why, like a lot of researchers like myself, if I ended up on TV, I guess that'd be okay. I guess that's one thing off my bucket list. But also at the same time, you're no longer yourself anymore. You're now a caricature of a cryptid hunter. You're now a caricature of yourself, not a true researcher.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it happens because I mean, just like people talk about pro wrestling not being real. I mean, there's a script somewhere, so of course it's not real when it comes to the storylines. Obviously, I mean, we grew up thinking they were, but when it comes to reality shows, the same thing. They scout for the right people. They scout for somebody that's vegan and somebody that loves meat, and they put them together and let them argue, because it's gonna raise arguments. And of course, that's what they want, like you said. So yeah. But let me ask you this. I mean, when it comes to what you do, where does it go? I mean, is it just straight to book when it comes to being published, or do you guys go out there and stream as well?
With me, I try to do a little bit of both. I do a lot of field. I try to do as much field research as I can. Yeah. But me, when I have 2 full-time jobs and I'm also writing books, hard to do that. But with me, it's a lot of just like, okay, if I have a good book to write about, I write it. Like I have 3 out right now.
Right.
Most 23-year-olds can't say they have 3 books out. So that's already like, okay, I got to have that flex. But with me, I need to make sure I have the research with it. I'm not going to just write a book just to write it. I need okay, I want to make sure it's well-researched and not just rushed through. Right. For instance, like my 3rd book, that took me almost 1.5 years to write because I want to make sure that it's well-written, it's published correctly, and stuff like that. So, like, with me, it's a lot of, like, also boots on the ground, reaching out to podcasts, reaching out to publishers, really trying to promote yourself.
No, and let me say, because, I mean, yeah, man, I mean, I keep forgetting about, I mean, well, as far as how old you are, because you're still young, man. So the fact that you're already accomplishing things, I mean, that's definitely, a great start, dude, because, I mean, like myself, there's things that I got into like at an older age only because, kids and priorities, were different. So now that the kids are grown and they're out of the house, I'm kind of like, okay, you know what, I'm going to start pursuing this, or I'm going to pursue that. And so, I've got a little bit more leeway. But let me ask you, I mean, of course, you said you have 2 full-time jobs, man. So what is your time frame like? I mean, because obviously if you're working, like, are both jobs like Monday through Friday and you got the weekends, or how does that work?
How it works is I'm a restaurant server and also a educator. So Mondays, Wednesdays, I usually spend at college trying to get my college work done. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I work at a school. Usually almost every day afterwards, I go and work at a local restaurant. So the days I have off, I'm like, okay, let me reach out to this researcher. Let me go and try to talk to this eyewitness. So usually I work like, estimate 2 30-hour jobs on top of college and then writing books. So it's very much a busy schedule, but how I see it, if it's something worthwhile, it's worth putting the effort into it. Like, for instance, I just released my 3rd book a couple weeks ago, and I'm out here like, okay, let me reach out to this podcast, let me do this, because especially recently, too, with my monthly event series I have here in town as well. I have a event series I'm also been doing promo for, going and talking to researchers, talking to businesses and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, when it comes to podcasts, because obviously, I mean, what kind of podcast are you reaching out to?
I try to do like paranormal Bigfoot podcast because I'm like, I'm not going to go and talk to a sports podcast. I'm going to try to talk to people that would know what I talk about. A lot of times, back when I first released my first book back in 2022, I was on 10, 20 podcasts. So I reach out to them again, like, hey, I was on the show once before. Do you want me to come back on? Stuff like that. There's a couple people that I know that are podcasters that had me on the show every couple months. That's helpful. Yeah. So it's really trying to I'm trying to do also a lot of local podcasts as well. Because hey, with me, I do have this local event series. So I'm like, let me talk to podcasters in San Antonio, Austin, this area, to try to help promote that as well.
No, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, of course, when it comes to the stream, because I mean, thanks to social media now, I mean, I do stream on 5 platforms. I do reach out as far as like South Australia, reach out to the UK. Actually, I'm interviewing a band this week that's in the UK. So I'm gonna ask them about them. What was it you said they had out there? The problem,
Uh, they have the big cats, what they
yeah,
call like Beast of Exmoor. They've had the Owlman, Loch Ness Monster, stuff like that.
I'm gonna ask him about those. Now I'm kind of curious, but yeah, when I ask him, hey man, by the way, how's the big cat problem going? See what they
Yeah,
say because yeah, that's something that I've never been to the UK, but I wouldn't put big cats with the you know what I mean. I would have never thought about that, but I mean, yeah, it's like if they people even here, like we mentioned, they're buying all these exotic animals and they're escaping or they're being let
yeah,
go, and it's like man, all it takes is two, and before you know it, man, you got a problem.
yeah.
You know?
I always tell people this little fact. There's more tigers in Texas than there are all of India.
Yeah.
Like that makes people really trip out.
Oh, yeah, and then that's I mean, the fact that it's here, and I mean, there's population here as far as like big cities and stuff. I mean, but yeah, let me ask you this: when you say that as far as San Antonio, I mean, you say you've been to Oklahoma as far as to go, uh, a venture, but I mean, here in Texas, I mean, what cities or where have you gone to actually go out and look for these animals or creatures?
Well, one of the biggest areas I usually go to is East Texas, town called Jefferson, Texas. That's known as the Bigfoot capital of Texas because our state's actually number 5, I believe, in Bigfoot sightings in the
Oh, damn.
whole United States. Like East Texas has, Marion County, Texas has, I believe, 50 to 60 Bigfoot sightings.
Oh, wow.
And that's where they have the annual Texas Bigfoot Conference. They bring in speakers from all around the country, even around the world, to come and talk about it here in this state. Because East Texas, if you've ever been out there, a big, wide forests,
Yeah,
swamplands, bayous, river bottoms.
yeah.
Those are the places where you would want to go. Another place that's very famous, a little outside the state, is Falk, Arkansas. If you've ever heard of the movie Legend of Boggy Creek,
Right.
that's where that movie's based out of, is Falk, Arkansas. I was actually a speaker at the festival they have every year last year. And going out there, you really see, like, yeah, I can imagine a swamp monster being out here. You can drive around and imagine just seeing something walk in the woods beside your car or
Yeah.
something because it's just so thick and it's so people don't live out there. People that live off the bayous really also tend to themselves. They don't really, if they go and see something, they're not going to go tell other people.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just it's like a thing of just regular life.
Yeah, that and of course they don't want people to, in their business because of course everybody's
Yeah.
going to want to go over there and they're going to start poking and I was going to say this and I forgot and I don't even think I told anybody, man. But I was covering a fight in Victoria a couple of months back, and when I'm driving back, like there was a lot of deer. There was a lot of deer, everywhere. So I had to slow down. And at one point, I'm driving and I could have sworn I saw like this monkey type creature like run through the front of the truck, bro. And
Hmm.
I wasn't paying attention to see what it was, but the way it crawled, like it, and I just glanced at it and I was like, "Oh crap! Like what the, I don't know what it could have been, but it looked like a small monkey. I don't know, but
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting. South Texas, we do have a population of monkeys out here.
oh shoot, there you go.
Outside Victoria, there was a research facility. They reached a bunch of rhesus macaques back in like the 70s and 80s, and they've been living out there ever since. So if you look up like South Texas monkeys, you'll find that there's a population living out there in South Texas.
Oh shoot, yeah, man. Because when I saw it, I was like, okay, that looked like a monkey, and I just kept driving. I was just like, man, I was trying to get home, but
Yeah,
I mean, I know here in San Antonio, man. I mean, what is it, Southwest Research Center,
Southwest.
right up the road? Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like right up the road, man, and they're out there, so they get out every once in a while. Or they'll I don't know if they announce all of them every time they get out, but I'm sure it
Yeah.
does happen.
Yeah. And another little interesting fact with the Southwest Research Center, the guy that made that was a guy named Tom Slick. Tom Slick actually helped fund expeditions to go look for the Yeti in Nepal. He was like an oil billionaire back in the 60s. He was like some like real life like James Bond. He helped fund like he was a spy in Nepal for the U.S. government. He helped fund Bigfoot expeditions. He actually helped fund a lot of the San Antonio Zoo as well. So it's funny how San Antonio has a lot of connections with like cryptozoology and stuff like that.
So are you telling me they have a Bigfoot in the Southwest Research Center? I'm gonna go out there right now, man. I'm gonna be like, hey.
They wouldn't tell anyone, you know that.
And I was gonna say too, because even growing up, I mean, we used to drive by there all the time, and I would always wonder, like, what, I knew they had animals, but I'm like, there's got to be something else in there, man. I mean, for them to keep it, it's fenced in, so it's not like people can't get in there. But I'm sure, the cops will get you right away. So we'll try to get out there, people. But who knows, man. But even then, I will say this. I mean, I've delivered, furniture not just recently or in the past years, but even mid 90s and early 2000s. I've worked with the delivery companies, and there's properties out there that you would have never known were out there, man. There's like hidden, they look like towns, acres and acres of people that just live there, mind their own, and it's like, damn, like people live out here, and even now here in the city, man. There's I think it's up Austin Highway. There's actually like a farm. There's still a farm in there between Austin Highway and 410, and you would have never thought, because everything grew around it. But there's a farm. There's animals. There's cows, and it's like, unless you've been there or somebody, you'll see it. But I delivered out there years back, and I was just like, what the world, like.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, of course we don't see it, doesn't mean that it don't exist, man.
Yeah, like San Antonio has a lot of that, like little hidden gems, and also like the little like old traditions. Like if anyone's that's been here in San Antonio, you've heard of like Midget Mansion. Like that's another little thing that like it's hidden here in San Antonio that unless you've been here, you've never probably heard about.
No, yeah. I actually work down the road from there, and I told everybody that works there, like, man, midget, and they're like, what? they're younger, so of course
they've never heard of it. It's like,
so it's just the one, and I always tell them, like, man, look it up online, and they're like, what? Like, really? And I'm like, yeah, it's just something in the 80s. We grew up driving by and just look, kind of scared, just looking out the window of the vehicle, but yeah, man, there's a lot of hidden gems, man. I know there's I delivered to this one by the Dominion across the highway, and I won't say exactly where, but the owner was like, oh yeah, it's next to that new apartment complex they're building, and I'm there looking for this place, and I'm like, where they? I'm like, dude, I'm out here, I don't see you, and he's like, I'll be right out there, and like all these woods, bro, all these trees, and I just see this truck coming in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like, and he honks with flashes his lights, and I'm like, is that you? He's like, yeah, just follow me in, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna die, like, it's like trees everywhere, and like once you get in there. There was 5 cabins. There was a pool, and you could hear people, but you couldn't see through the trees, man. And I was just like, wow. Who lives out here? And he's like, man, this is I think property that his great grandfathers owned, and they didn't want to sell it. So now the family nobody lives in the city, but they travel out here and stay there for like for the holidays. And I'm like, wow, bro, like it was just
it's like having a whole community.
Yeah, and it's like hidden cabins, bro. They were like cabins. They weren't even houses. They were like literally cabins, and they were like, it was just like mind blowing because I'm thinking, damn, I would have thousands of people that drive by there and they don't even know that place is there.
Yeah.
But man, of course, as far as books, I mean, you said the most recent one is the one that you held up, correct?
Yes. This one's Beyond Bigfoot. It just released recently. It's pretty much about like the other unknown creatures seen in North America, like. Well, I brought up the gugweed, apes, devil monkeys, stuff like that. My second book was purely a Bigfoot book. Let me see if I have it here on my desk. Sasquatch, A Prehistory. It talks about like the origins of Sasquatch. Where did it come from? Why does it look the way it does? What's its anatomy? Stuff like that.
Okay, and then where are these books available at?
Of course. You can find them on like Amazon, of course. My second to my last 2 books, they're both published by Erie Light Publishing. They were done by a guy named David Weatherly. He's a pretty big name in the field. So if you look up like Ryan Edwards' cryptids, you'll most likely be able to find my books.
Okay, sweet, man. And of course, I mean, when it comes to you writing, I mean, are you like writing something right now? Are you working on anything?
Currently, right now, no, because right now I want to try to get I'm like, okay, either I can do all these jobs in college and also write a book, or take care of all this other stuff, then write a book later. Because I want to try to write what we call a Dogman book maybe in the next couple of years. But I'm like, know what? I already broke 3. I can wait on that, make sure it's not rushed, and make sure I do it correctly as well.
Okay, and of course for that one, I mean, when it comes to research, I mean, you said you were out there as far as traveling to. I mean, as far as where they've been spotted at, right? I mean, is that what you do? You just go out there and just talk to like
Yeah.
locals and interview them?
With me, it's I go out there with they've been spotted. I also talk to eyewitnesses a lot. Like I talk to fellow researchers, like okay, this eyewitness had a sighting here, this person had a sighting here, and what I try to do is map them on like a map and see if there's any type of like correlations. Like okay, if all the sightings happen on this one creek, okay, if I go there, I might have something happen. If they're all spread out, that might show like a range. Like large predators have a large range of like food. Maybe you can go in the middle of it and maybe see if you can find something.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. And I mean, I can only imagine because earlier, and I will say this because you brought up Indiana Jones, and of course, the hat, the jacket. But you were saying you were going to school to pursue being a history teacher, man. So I'm like, man, you got Indiana Jones all over you, bro.
And you know what? I'll also say it too. You're from San Antonio. Have you heard of the restaurant Magic Time Machine?
Yeah.
I also work there. I'm one of the characters at Magic Time Machine, and my character is Indiana Jones.
Oh, okay. There you go, man.
So I'm the real life Indiana Jones, pretty much, guys. Like I don't hunt monsters and go teach kids. Like it's real life Indiana Jones over here.
No, man. Well, that's cool, man. I mean, the fact that you found a niche and you're sticking to it, man. I mean, because obviously, like you said, I mean, you're going to school full time, working both jobs or going to school 3 days a week, but you're doing it for a cause, and that's because you enjoy it, and this is what you want to do. So I commend you, man. Because at your age, I think I was working like one job, and the rest of the time I was out going to clubs, bro. So so definitely you're doing it right, man.
Thank you, brother.
Now, and of course, I want you to wrap this up within an hour, my man. And dude, I mean, you said other podcasters as far as like bringing you on. I would love to bring you back on here, of course. Follow up and see as far as next time. Definitely, I want you to get a little Q&A, just kind of let everybody know as far as what you do. The next one is definitely have it more towards one thing and just concentrate on that, and just to get a little bit more. Of course, people can go buy the book, but we'll go the easy way and just, hear it from you personally, man.
Yeah. And actually, while we're talking about local stuff,
yes,
let me bring up something that I've been doing here in town recently. A good friend of mine, Chris Jordan, and I, and Rod Nichols of Bear County Bigfoot, we've created an event called Symposium of the Strange. It's based at Magic Time Machine. It's a bi-monthly event based here in San Antonio that we bring in different people like me, paranormal researchers, paranormal writers, and we do it every 2 months. And we rent out the bar location. We have a little specialty bar menu, and we bring out like Bigfoot hunters, ghost hunters.
Oh, nice.
If you look up Symposium of the Strange online, our next one's November 20th, and we have Brad and Barry Kling of Ghost Lab. Back a couple years ago on Travel Channel, the TV show Ghost Lab, their hosts live here in town, and they're coming out to come speak, sell their books. We have 2 types of tickets. We have $15 general admission and then $30 VIP. With VIP, you get a free book from the author, whoever's speaking, signed by the speaker, and a poster of the speaker.
Okay, and I was going to say, because I don't know if I grabbed the one with the right date, because I did see it. Oh, this was from September. But
this is the one that we just had.
Yeah, okay. So, because there was 2 on there, and I wasn't exactly sure which one I grabbed. But, I was going to ask you about that too, man. So that does happen here locally. And like you said, it's every 2 months?
Yeah, every 2 months. Pretty much it's very experimental. We're just starting it out, but we kind of see it as a way of like getting people together, because we just had our second event, and we had a lot of people that they've never been to an event like this. They've been interested in Bigfoot or ghosts ever since they were kids, but they didn't know who to go to. So we're like, okay, come to our events. We can get you, like, if you're like a podcast or something like that, you can help get connections, networking.
Nice.
If you're an eyewitness, you can maybe like, oh, I saw this thing when I was a kid. Okay, we can talk. We can have you talk to someone, and we can help add that to our data sets. It's a really cool event, like bringing in a lot of people that have never been to an event like that and help networking here in San Antonio. and also Austin as well too.
Dude, that's pretty cool, man. I was gonna say because I had never heard about that. I mean, I know as far as ghost sightings and ghost tours and everything else, but I mean, when it comes to like a little meet and greet, that's
Yeah,
actually it makes sense, especially with people that have questions that are out there trying to get some questions answered, because like I said, I mean, I know I've seen things, heard things, and I mean, it's been quite a bit, man. I think at one point, one of my friends I was telling him about one of them, and he was like, "Man, like, are you sure it's not you that's haunted?" It kind of freaked me out, dude. I ain't gonna lie. I
yeah.
was like, I don't think so, man. But yeah, bro. I mean, dude, I appreciate you jumping on here. Like I said, we'll definitely bring you back. Let's try. I mean, for the next one, you said it's gonna be coming up, right?
Yeah, November 20th.
Well,
It starts at 6 p.m.
okay. What we'll do is we'll bring you in like a week before. So we can
Awesome.
put that in and see maybe if you want to bring somebody else. I mean, I can fit up to like 8 people in this bad boy. So if you want to bring somebody else and we can both kind of just promote it, let people know what's going to happen and, try to bring people out there, man.
Of course, that'd be great, my man.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you, brother. And of course, don't hang up yet, man. Everybody out there, of course, once again, Ryan Edwards. This is Spida Coming Soon Podcast. Until next time, follow up.